What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the ARC Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon. If you're new tuning in, thank you for joining. This is the Athletes Resilience Center podcast where we talk all things mental performance in sports. We have an awesome episode for you this week. We have on special guest Langston Provitt. Langston is a former baseball and collegiate football player that goes into his story on how he got to where he is today and how he works with athletes on the mental side of the game. We go over Langston's love for the game of football, which took him to play football in college at first and then ultimately make the transition into playing baseball, which is what he ended up playing at the end of his collegiate career. We go through his setbacks and adversity in college that led him to play at Jacksonville University. We talk about Langston's transition post-playing career, how he ended up coaching and why he continues to coach and now has transitioned from going into a strength and performance sphere into more of a mental performance sector. We go into Langston's mission as an athlete's inner game coach and why he began the program and why he continues to coach. We go through a lot of the mental performance tools that allowed Langston to overcome his adversity when he was a collegiate athlete and ultimately succeed in college. We go over some of the mental tools that Langston wishes that he did have when he was in college and what he currently works on with his athletes that he coaches. We go over the biggest disconnects in youth sports and how we as coaches can help youth athletes reach their peak performance mentally. And we go through so much more involving mental performance in sports. This is an awesome episode, and I hope you guys enjoy. Langston, thank you so much for coming on, my man. This was a long time coming. I appreciate you taking the time to come chop it up with us and talk about everything mental performance in sports. How are we doing tonight?
Oh, fantastic, man. It's been a great day, great night, and I'm excited for this. This is again, this is stuff that not a lot of people are touching on. And so this is the most important stuff that changes people's lives. So I'm excited. Let's do it.
Yeah, yeah, we were talking right before this, man. We seem like very like-minded on this kind of subject and topic, so I'm fired up to have you on here and hear your perspective on everything. So, with that being said, we're going to start the episode off like we do every episode, and I'm going to kick it right back to you and let you kind of go through your journey on how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, let's take it way back. Oh, grew up playing all types of sports. I played, football, baseball, basketball, wrestling, soccer, track, all of it growing up. High school, condensed a little bit, football, baseball, basketball. Baseball, we were a powerhouse in high school. We won 3 out of 4 years state championship. Football, we were solid. We're even better now. But football was always my passion, and I loved it. But I was always performance based. How I played dictated where I was, energy wise, confidence wise, all of that. And I always struggled in baseball because my dad was hard on me, and when I would strike out, if I had a bad at bat, I got picked up, whatever, made an error. It was like, what's wrong with you? And I really internalized those things. And we see it with a lot of kids these days. And so those things hurt. They hurt me, and they helped me back. And I was afraid to fail again, and so I was afraid to put myself in those situations. And I was still performing pretty well. I was very athletic. I was a speedy guy. My game was speed, moved to the outfield, and played center field and all that. Hit lead off, blinded a lot. Wasn't recruited very much for baseball in high school, going to college. Fortunately, got a scholarship to go play at Ohio University for football. Felt like I deserved to play at like Ohio State. We believe certain things about ourselves, and I knew I had the heart for it. I knew I had the IQ, the awareness of the game for it. Physically, I was a little bit underdeveloped. I was graduated like 165 pounds, 5'9",
Yeah.
or 5'10", 5'11". But nonetheless, got the opportunity, and it was a late offer, and didn't really want to go there, but I went, and I was like, I'm gonna make the most of it. And so got there, and I was bottom of the depth chart. Went there to play offense or defense, and I asked, "What can I get on the field first?" They said defense, cornerback is thinnest, and I was like, "Let's do it." And so last on the depth chart when I get there, besides the walk-ons, and by the end of the summer camp, I was like fourth on the depth chart, 3 seniors in front of me, and so you start one on each side, and then the first sub would be number 3. So I'm fourth, and I'm like, "Let's go." And so throughout, I started off on special teams throughout the season. start getting more reps. The third guy gets hurt. So now I'm the first off the bench. Anytime the corner needs a rest, team's throwing it up top, I'm coming in. Fast forward a couple games. Now I'm starting in the nickel. Now I'm starting on dime. Now I'm starting punt returner. Now I'm starting kick return and punt return. And so it was a crazy progression in that season. And it was just like, if you asked me going into the summer or asked my teammates if, I was going to be starting, no shot. We started three freshmen didn't redshirt out of 20. 17 freshmen redshirted. I wasn't one of them. Fast forward, those three seniors graduate after the season, and I'm the number one corner now. So we're going into spring, and I'm feeling the pressure, but football is what I do. And when I went to college, I was like, I think I'll try to play baseball too. After the first season, like let me get my feet wet in football and then try to play baseball too, walk on there. So we go into spring, and I'm playing pretty well. I get a really bad concussion, and I had a fair amount of concussions growing up. I started playing tackle at 6, and it just came to me like I was praying on it. And I wasn't super spiritual at the time, but some of my friends on the team were pretty spiritual, and we prayed together. And came to me and said, "Hey, it's either this, you continue down this path, potentially, go the CTE route, but later, or you prioritize your future life and family." And for a 19-year-old kid, it was like a crazy decision to make. And I made it. A lot of kickback from high school coaches, college coaches, teammates. I had to do what I had to do, and came back home and was just lost. It was like never had a time period in my life that I could ever remember where I wasn't playing a sport. You know how it is. Like we're always playing something, or training, or travel ball, or something. And I had nothing. And I was just kind of back home. And I always say I was just a normal college kid. And at first it was like, that's okay. That's pretty cool. You know, party life a little bit and hang out with friends and sleep in, and I don't have to be at morning lifts. But I mean that it caught up to me so quick. I remember waking up one day, we stayed out really late. I think I woke up at like 2 p.m., like something crazy. And I remember waking up and I was like, man, what the hell am I doing? Is this where I'm going? Like I was just on a path like potentially to be drafted. And now like waking up at two o'clock in the afternoon, like what's going on? And so I remember I had a hard conversation with my mom, and she was like, well, what are you gonna do? You talked about playing baseball. Are you gonna play baseball, or you just gonna be average? And she said it in a nicer tone than that, but that's how I perceived it, being that the high level, competitor that I was like, damn. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna play baseball, and started studying a little bit. Some of the people around me were studying law of attraction and stuff like that. Started studying self improvement a bit, and I wish I could say that coming from that background of baseball and being athletic and all that, that I chose to play baseball and then boom, it happened. But no, I mean, I don't wish it now, but at the time I did. It wasn't that easy. Start going on this journey, hitting by myself, going to cages, I had no money, broke college kid, and um, summer's coming up, and I start hitting up all these coaches, and nothing. They're like, what college roster do you play on? I'm like, I don't. I'm trying to play in a summer league so I can get on a college roster. They're like, you can't play in a summer league unless you're on a college roster. And I was like, well, that's quite the conundrum, isn't it? Because that's what I'm trying to do. And so, man, I was reaching out left and right, emails, texting, calling my high school coaches. They were calling people, everybody. And fortunately, so there was a gap. There was a year where I didn't play. And so there's 2 years that I wasn't playing baseball, 1 year that I didn't play any sports. And so end of sophomore summer going into my junior year, um, on the field, I was a sophomore. I got to play in a summer league. Like it worked out. We just found one. And I swear to you, my first three at bats, two of those three at bats, I broke my bat. It was a wood bat league. And I was like, "Ah." And I couldn't catch up. It was like 86. And I was just like, I just feel so behind.
Yeah.
And that summer, me and one other guy just grinded like no other. I never had put that kind of effort in sports, and we were just trying to figure it out. Just always recording each other's swings, always getting there early. I was playing shortstop in that league because I was like, wherever I can play, just put me there. I'll take any reps. So I go into that thinking I'm gonna get a scholarship at the end of this league, and so the league ends. I probably hit like two something, nothing, nothing to brag about. And I'm talking to the coaches, and they're like, no, we don't have any spots for you. Nothing. No JUCO, no NAIA, no NCAA, nothing. And so again, back to it, emailing schools, email all the JUCOs in Florida, Georgia, whatever. my mom sees a tryout on Google for this NAI high school Weber in Florida, and it's $75 for a tryout. And I'm like, let's do it. So we drive down and we do the $75 tryout. And we start off, you get 3 rounds of 5 batting practice, and swing wasn't there yet. And I hit decent, couple of liners, but like just going into the outfield, like nothing. I wasn't hitting the warning track up. And then we go to the outfield, and usually they hit you some fly balls and make throws, little IO. Coach is standing like 10 feet from us and tossing them up, and he's the sun's right above his head. And so by the time he tosses it, by the time you try to block it, you couldn't even see the ball. And so I dropped it, and like 3 of us in a row dropped it. And he goes, "You guys suck. Like, I'm just gonna roll you ground balls, and you guys make throws." So that was the trial. And then he's like, "All right, guys, bring it up." And I was like, "Wait, wait, wait. We're not gonna run the 60 because that's my tool." And I'm like, "We gotta run the 60." He's like, "Oh, that's right. Well, if you guys want to run, go to first base, and we're gonna go first, third. If you don't want to run, you don't have to run." And there was like 3 of us that did it, and I did it, and they were like, "Oh, wow, he's fast." And so they're like, "All right, well, you guys will hear in 2 weeks." Fast forward, I got like a 25% scholarship, which I was hype about. I didn't realize the student loans was gonna hit me with to
Yeah,
to
yeah,
to play, but it worked out. And they put me on JV, and I was like, I didn't even know colleges had JV, and I was like, this is strange. And so they treated JV like we were like scum of the earth. Like the varsity would practice on the field, JV would go to the cages, varsity, all the coaches would leave, and then we'd go on the field and just figure it out with one of the GAs. And it was like, wow. And so at this point, I'm like, I'm all in. Like I've already, like my friends are like, yo, like you're on JV in college. It's like, and very little support, my family, of course, but I was like, I'm going all in. So, I gotta make it happen. I got big dreams. I said I was gonna make it D1 and beyond. So, I started studying the most successful people in every field, not just baseball. I was like, what separates the most successful people in life? And there was a few common things. It was like attention. They set goals. Most of them wake up early. Cold showers, meditation, breath work, visualization. And so it was like, okay, let me at least start trying some of these things. And so I went down this path of trying these things. And God, I kid you not, I moved into this place, and it was just like in my mind, it was like a stepping stone. It was like, I'm going to move beyond this place. And so I didn't even unpack boxes. I didn't put up anything on the walls. I had this from my concussion, I had to do these like eye tests because my eyes had some issue after. So I had my eye chart on the wall, and that was it. I had a TV, and I put it on top of one of my boxes, and I just had my bed, and it was nothing in there. And somehow my house was the party house, and I literally would just stay in my room and just lock the door while people are partying. I'm like, I'm figuring this out. And I would watch film, I'd watch baseball, I'd watch my swing like that. I'd record, and I'd go to bed, wake up early, and I would try to wake up, 5 o'clock, and I'd try to get to the cages, 6:30. If we had lifts in the morning, I'd go hit before we lifted, turn the flashlight on to see the tee, just whatever. And I remember the one day, I'll never forget this. I was there at like 7 a.m. and our classes started at like 9:30. And one of the coaches walked by, and there's nobody there. We don't have practice. We practice in the afternoon. And I'm just hitting off the tee, and I'm recording it. I'm like, "Hey coach, you mind just stopping for a little bit and just give me some tips on my swing? Like all I need is just some guidance." And he's like, "I don't have time for it." And I was like, "Really?" I was like, "Okay." And so continue playing JV, but because of my speed, I start playing varsity to pinch run. And then eventually I start getting some outfield reps at the end of the games. And then eventually I get a couple at bats, but I'm still playing JV, but I'm still getting some varsity reps. And then eventually I get a start. I played okay. And then we had some crazy flag football tournament. Our center fielder gets hurt. And so then I get to play. And I'm thinking I'm going to capitalize on it. I'm going to take my spot. You know how baseball works. It didn't work out that way. And so
right.
I'm still just like doing everything. Like I'm doing the most. Like if we have a morning lift at 6, I'm at the cage at 5 hitting, and then I walk down to the lift, and my teammates are like, "What the hell?" And it's NAI, so like most of these dudes are like last chance you know what I'm saying? Like they're
Yeah,
like, I'm 24, 25, I just want to play another year of baseball.
right.
And I'm 20, and I'm like, no, I'm figuring this out. I'm figuring this out. And so I'm asking questions of everybody. I'm recording everything. I'm watching. I'm literally like every day, like Hank Aaron, Barry Bonds, like breakdowns of their swings, like watching their highlights and just trying to compare and contrast, try to figure it out. Fast forward to the last series of the season. I've never hit a home run in my life. Crazy to believe. I've never hit a home run up to that point. And I start first at bat, home run. Next at bat, triple off the fence. I think I went four. I think I went 3 for 4, home run, triple, single, just short of the cycle. 5 RBIs, and it's a doubleheader. And he benches me in the second game. I'm like, what's good? What's good? And win the series. We go into the conference tournament as the 6th seed. Our team's never won the conference tournament in the history of the school. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to play because, he benched me after I had 5 RBIs and all this. Well, I start and we play the first seed. We play the 1 seed in the first game. And first 3 at bats, barrel, but all outs. I'm like, okay, but I'm swinging good. Like at this point, I'm like, I know what a quality at bat is now. Like
Yeah.
I'm not, I've been putting enough work in to know like we win, right? We play like the 4 seed Florida Memorial, and it's a back and forth game. Again, I'm 0 for 3, so I'm 0 for 6 in the tournament, but I'm seeing the ball well, I'm hitting the ball well. It's just right at people. So I come up bottom of the ninth, and I'm just thinking, get on base, do something. It's tied 3-3, and fastball up and in, ball one, and I'm like, all right, just get on base. Throws another fastball up in the zone, piece it, and I'm like, okay, double. And I look up as I round first, walk off, and I'm like, no fucking way. And I'm going crazy. Like inside, like I can't even explain the feeling because all I had went through, prior to get to this point, like the stuff that nobody saw and all of
Right.
the hate and the disgusted looks and the doubt was crazy, and it was just like all of it at once. And so we go on. Next game, we play the 2 seed. First at bat, home run. Next at bat, double. And I'm like, oh my god. And now we lose that game, but it was the championship. They had to beat us twice because of our record. We win the tournament. I win MVP of the tournament. First tournament, a conference championship in school history. And so after the season, like, we have our meeting with the coaches, and they were like, okay, cool. Like, we're excited for you next year. We just kind of want to hear your thoughts on everything. And I was like, well, I'm not coming back. And they're like, what? I was like, I don't want to play for you guys. Like, the way you guys treated me, all I asked from you guys was for help. Like, I didn't show any arrogance or anything. All I did was show respect and ask you guys to help me progress as a player. You think I want to play for you? And then the head coach goes, what makes you think you could even play at the next level? I just laughed. And the coach looked at him and was like, why would you say that? And I just laughed, and I was like, that's exactly why I don't want to play here. So again, I'm thinking like, okay, people saw me do this. They're going to want to, nothing. And so again, I'm back on the same thing. And so, but now, like I've seen some proof in the pudding. I've seen like the effort that I put in has changed me. Like I'm approaching the game differently, different than I ever have. And so I email a whole, like all the JUCOs everywhere in Florida, all of South, Southern United States. One school gets back to me, and they're like, hey, we see you're an athlete. We'll give you a tryout. And so I go do a tryout there, and they're like, we'll give you a walk-on spot. And I'm like, cool. JUCO's pretty cheap. I just want to play. And so St. John's River, excuse me. And in the fall, I just, same mentality. And I was older than a lot of those guys. A lot of them are 18-year-olds coming in, and but my mentality was just like, I'm gonna destroy all of you. And by the fall, by the end of the fall, I earned a scholarship, leadoff hitter. I win like this award for representing the school or something. Like team captain, all this stuff, and then I ended up first team all conference, all this stuff, getting some draft looks, and I'm like, oh, it's crazy. Like 2 years ago, you would never have thought, but I'm still going down this path. Like I'm in my room, like in bed early. We're going to bed early. We're up early. I have my cage routine every day, all this stuff. But then I started studying a little bit deeper. I read the book Mental Keys to Hitting, and that was the first like dive into mental performance. And I was like, wow, it was Harvey Dorfman. And then I started looking into Ken Ravizza a little bit. And, because I'm a Rays fan, he worked with Evan Longoria. And that really helped me. Like that really changed a lot of my game. And so I think I'm going to get drafted. I don't. Fast forward. Savannah Bananas hit me up with a couple weeks with like the second half of the season to come play for them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hype, but I still have 5 classes I got to finish to go D1. And so I'm like, I'm not going to turn down bananas though. Like it wasn't pro yet. It was still the Coastal Plains League. But I go do it. And then I get my scholarship to JU. Then I go play there. And that's kind of where I lost my love for the game. Our coach, he's one of those coaches, his ego got in the way of, his purpose, in my opinion. And a lot of us kind of lost love for the game. And then COVID hit halfway through the season. I'm a fifth year, I'm getting my master's, and I'm like, I have a lot of student debt, kind of lost my love for the game. He hurt me. So I decided to wrap it up. And it's during COVID, get into training, just trying to figure it out. I'm like, I'm going to become a personal trainer or something. I want to stay around sports. I'm organizational management, business management, undergrad, and then sport management master's. And so I'm like, something around sports. I need to contribute. So then, COVID starts to open up the restrictions a little bit. I get into a school to help out with the strength and conditioning. And then that just led me to helping athletes. And I realized, yeah, I want to work with athletes. I love helping athletes. And then that led to me going to another facility, sporting facility, performance center. And then I became the director of performance at a baseball academy here, which actually a powerhouse. And it just taught me a ton. I was working with over 100 kids a day.
Yeah.
From, elementary school to working with some, minor league guys and being around some pro guys, and just opened my eyes. And then got an opportunity to get out of the industry to make more money. I was getting married, and I was like, I gotta, be a little bit more supportive of my wife and this and that. And then one of the guys that I trained, he went to Stanford to play football. He came back after some injuries and went down this whole self-discovery route, and he kind of brought it back to me, and I kind of got away from it a little bit, and showed me some of the breath work, the journaling, the deep work, some stuff, some questions that I had never, you know, considered asking and stuff. It really interested me, and so we just started doing some sessions. It just worked, man. I'm like, imagine if we had this when we were kids, middle school, high school, even college.
Yeah.
What would these kids that we know now, you know, how would it change them if we did this? So then I was like, wow, like I really want to do this with kids. I really want to do this with the athletes that I've trained. And so it just opened this chapter. I was like, we should do this together. And so I had a ton of kids that I used to train, dozens of groups of teams and all this that I used to work with. And so I started reaching out to their parents, and I'm like, imagine if your kid understood their identity and it was rooted far beyond the game, far beyond your expectations, far beyond success and all of that. It was rooted in who they truly are and their spirit. And we taught them how to build true confidence
Yeah.
that's rooted beyond all of this, regardless of if they win or lose. What would that do for your kid? And we were saying this to each other, I'm like, what parent would say no?
Right.
How could you, if you said no, you don't like your kid?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just, it was just that. And, we started working with some of the kids that I used to train. And it was the most fulfilling thing I had ever done. And I was like, wow, who knew that this was, what all of this was leading me to? And then we were just like, we got to double down. And so we got a business coach because we are like, okay, now we need to figure out the business side of this, because if we want to reach more people, we got to have a better model. And so we started asking my mentors and his mentors and their mentors and connect us with everybody. And so I took a Brian Kane certification because somebody told me I should do that.
Yeah. Yep.
And we read Inner Excellence. Have you read that?
Yes. Yeah.
Brother, that was what an amazing book. And just started deep diving into all of it. And obviously we do the work, because one thing we learn is when we slow down on the work, our delivery is a little bit slowed down. And so we have to keep pouring into the deep work, the meditation, the breath work, priming our state before the call, all of that stuff, because they feel it. And when we can help deliver that energy to them, now they're more likely to carry that. That was I think that was 20 minutes of me explaining that, but yeah,
Yeah.
man,
No.
it's been a long time coming.
We want to take a quick second to let you know that today's podcast is brought to you by the Philly Pretzel Factory of Marlton, New Jersey. Whether it's picking up a snack between games or picking up a party tray for the big game, the Philly Pretzel Factory of Marlton has you covered. For all of your pretzel needs, make sure you stop by the Philly Pretzel Factory of Marlton, located on North Maple Ave. Let them know that the ARC podcast sent you. Now back to the episode. Listen, man, you have a very unique and great journey. I love that you shared all that with me. And what's awesome, you said the Brian Kane certification. I'm actually in the middle of that as well. It's like the MPM certification. So I'm fired up about that. I'm sure I'll pick your brain about some of those topics as well. But I appreciate you going through your whole journey, man, because I think it is important for you to highlight everything that you've kind of been through, the ups and the downs, right? I think a big key thing that I noticed that you referred to, that year time period when you weren't playing sport, right? And I'm sure in the moment that felt very dark and you felt very lost. But now looking back, right? We always look at these things as from like a resilient mindset, especially on this podcast when we have guests on. Can you kind of go into that time period as well? Because I'm sure during that time period, things that you now had to look at, you had to look at in a much different lens, right? Like your value, how you approached every day, like your mindset of I need to get back to playing a collegiate sport, right? Like what did that look like for you? Because I'm sure in it sucked, but looking back, I'm sure it's the biggest blessing in disguise that you could have asked for.
Yeah. I mean, it was an interesting time because it was still around some friends, and so to an extent, we had fun, but it was different than what I define it fun as now. But it was, you're right, it was an absolutely essential part of the journey and my transformation as a being, as a person. And I guess the biggest thing was how I was seeking fulfillment. I thought my worth was tied to, you know, being, having some kind of status, having money,
Yeah.
or being good with women, and these types of things that are so fleeting and such a distraction. And it's so important that I had to go through that because now, when I understand these kids so much deeper. I understand that they're trying to prove themselves to this girl, or they're trying to prove themselves to their parents. And I thought I had to do something sport related to prove myself. I thought I'm an athlete. That's all I can really do. I'm smart. Like I'm going to get my degree, but like if I'm not playing sports, like who am I? And so in that time, it was, very much like lack, 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 lack. Like I'm lacking, you know, but I was never lacking, and we are never lacking. And I appreciate you saying that. Like it is important that we pay respect and pay homage to that time because that time, is crucial for our development. And so, yeah, like looking back, understanding now, like if I were to coach myself, man, I would say, hey, none of this defines you.
Yeah.
None of this defines your worth. Like you are not less than or more than because of this moment or because of you playing sports after this. It's all about who you define yourself as, and that's such an important thing, and that's why I love this because helping somebody define who they are and beyond all of this, it's like you get this peace. You
Yeah.
understand that I'm good. None
Right.
of this is going to make me more. It's just an extra blessing, you know? So,
Definitely. No, I completely agree. And actually, you make a really good point. The last guest we had on the podcast said something similar, and he put it very eloquently when he was talking about, like, when you're an athlete, you identify so much with my identity, like you said. I'm an athlete. I play sports. Like, that's me. Like, I am Langston, the baseball player. I'm Langston, the football player. I'm Brandon, the baseball player. But what we don't really look at the time, which is way more important, is what are the characteristics that I've built at that point that build the human, right? Like you learned how to be resilient. You learned like when I'm tested, I know I can fight my way back and get to where I need to be, right? And I'm sure you found a new love for the game, right? And even though your identity was kind of transformed, that was okay because your characteristics stayed the same. Now, my next question kind of comes in because you brought up, your concussion and ultimately, you made a decision that was in the best interest for your health and your family's health and the future development of you and where you wanted to go. What did that identity transformation look like? Because, like you said, you had said when you were a kid, man, football was the passion. So, like, looking yourself in the mirror and saying, this is what's best for me, like, one, that's a really mature decision because you never know what would have happened if you ran yourself back out there and put yourself through that again. But, like, what did that identity transformation look like for you at that time? Really difficult? Were you kind of at peace with it? Like, what did that look like football wise?
yeah, it was a combination of both. It was really difficult because that's how everybody knew me too. I had this huge reputation as being the guy in football where I was from and in my family, and so even my family You
Yeah.
know, some of my family members disagreed with me. And so I
Yeah.
had my own inner battle of, are you making a mistake? Like, what are you walking away from? You know? And then an external battle, like people that I cared about, people that helped me along the journey saying, what are you doing? Why are you stepping away? But there was a level of peace because, and like I said at the time, like I wasn't super spiritual. Like I wasn't, you know, right? Like now, you know, I believe in God deeply and everything, you know, I surrender it all. But at the time I wasn't there, but I remember feeling this sense of peace that this is the right decision. And so, but it was a constant back and forth because while there was that peace in the decision, there was still this empty feeling of that was where I got my fulfillment was from people seeing me as this football player, as this high level athlete. And so, um, baseball, getting back into baseball was partially an insecure move. It was an
Okay.
ambitious
Yeah.
move, but as I dig deeper, there was an aspect of me trying to fill something by playing. I feel like that's a common theme for a lot of people. And it's not to say that it wasn't necessary for me to do that, because I think it was absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
But it's just understanding now, you know, what the motive was there. It was like I was saying, like, I can do this, but it was really like I have to do this or else. And there's so much weight and pressure there.
Right.
And so I'm sure you see this with some of your athletes. Like they put so much weight on themselves,
Yes.
so much pressure that if they don't achieve this, accomplish this, then for what, like, what's going to happen to them then?
Right.
And, you know, yeah.
I mean, no, I completely agree. And you see young athletes all the time, like through college, right? Like they don't perform, and maybe like you said, you had brought up, getting looked at by MLB scouts and having that potential, like focusing on what's the next move, what can I do to get to the next level, right? Like at a certain point, man, sometimes you just got to take a step back and be like, how grateful am I that I get to play collegiate baseball with 30 of my closest friends, right? And every day I get to go out there and battle and go to war and play a game that, how many kids would want to be in your position, right? And of course, we're stepped away from the game in that sense, not playing anymore. So it's easy for you and I to say, man, that's the best time, you're having a blast. But truthfully, like incorporating some of that gratitude is so important, man. And like just kind of being where your feet are at. Now, I'd love to hear your perspective too, like working with athletes, because you talk about the pressures. Like, what are some of the things that you're seeing are affecting youth athletes most? Like, I know you went and spoke to the high school football team, and if for anyone who hasn't seen it, go on social media and check out his speech. That was awesome. Really fired me up. I love that, the process over outcome. I'm all in on that. So I'd love to hear your perspective on like what you're seeing in the community is affecting our youth athletes the most.
First of all, I appreciate that. Man, there's a lot of things. Social media is a tool, but it is such a distraction for a lot of these
Yeah.
kids. And unfortunately, a lot of it comes down to kids trying to become something because they think that that makes them enough. You know, Jim Murphy talks about in Inner Excellence, palms. Our ego's looking for five things: possessions, achievements, looks, money, and status. And social media has done such a huge job of making that seem like that makes you a man or that makes you a real woman. And it's really hurting our kids. It's because, you know, they think that they have to post their highlights and post them being great and they have to, you know, never show their mistakes in order to be enough, to be loved, to be cared for. And so that's a big one. And then parents, man, it's sad. It saddens me to say it because, and we just talked about this on our podcast, if a parent hasn't done the deep work and they're battling some, you know, some inner issues, some insecurity on the inside, stuff that's been holding them back, the kids get that as a direct, you know, reflection of their parents. Like kids get kids become their environment, right? And so if your parents have self-limiting beliefs, if they have this lack mentality, if they're complaining about coaches, if they're saying that, you know, you can't play professional, that's what the kids are getting. And so a huge component of it is the parents. And then we also have this lack in our society, and I say that we talked about before, like there truly never is a lack, but I believe we don't have enough people stepping up and coaching kids on this as a
Yeah.
whole in life, not
Right.
just in sports, but as a whole. Like this should be a foundational class in every grade level.
Yeah.
Human development, right? identity and confidence development. Like, we need to teach these kids what it means to truly be, um, a pivotal role in society, right? Like, how to take care of themselves, how to love themselves, how to love themselves, like, what it means to love yourself, what it means to have compassion and help others. Like, these are you talked about it. These are characteristics that you develop over time. But why are we not showing kids this? Why are we teaching kids calculus but not teaching them how to handle adversity? Like, so it's a lot, man. And there's a lot of factors, and it's something that I had to, as time went by, slow down a little bit and say, I can't expect so much from these kids at the beginning, right? I always tell them, I expect a couple things from you, right? Attention, energy, effort. When we're here together, when we're working together, you give me that 100%.
Yeah.
When we're
Yeah.
not working together, you do the things that I tell you to do, right? We do a lot of journal work, breath work outside of it, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do what I tell you to do, right? But don't do it for me. I need you to take ownership of this. Why? Because this has to mean something for you to get something out of it. Don't do this because your mom brought you here. Same thing when I
Right.
train kids for speed work or whatever, fitness. Don't come here because your dad told you you need to get faster,
Right.
right? Like, you need to buy into this. And let me rephrase that, because need comes from a place of lack. This is a blessing. Buy into the opportunity to develop a skill set that's going to help you do something that you love. You talked about that earlier. Why are you doing this? A lot of kids have no clue why they're doing it.
No. Yeah.
And then when you ask them, they're afraid to say it, but it's because they want to prove themselves to their parents. And so, to your question, there's a lot of things holding people back, holding these kids back. There's pressure, expectations from society, from parents, the ego, and a lack of knowing why and who they are.
Yeah. No, I think that was perfectly said, truthfully. Like, there are so many different things. We just had a performance psychologist on the podcast, and she talked about a lot of those similar topics about youth sports and the parents' pressure that they put on their kids. And like you said, there's this like living through your kid thing where you preached it the other day on that video that I watched, right? Process over outcome. But what are the things that the parents will go tell other parents, right? It's, oh, little Johnny got first place. He was voted the best pitcher hitter in the league, right? That's the outcome. That's the result. What we do need to be rewarding is, you know what? There were 365 days this year. He went to the batting cages 365 days, right? Like, that's what we should be preaching, is the work ethic, right? Because those are the things that's transferable over into the role that you play today, right? As a coach. Like, I was just thinking about this the other day. You said, you're an all conference athlete. I was an all conference pitcher as well. Like, you being an all conference athlete does not make you a good coach today. You've probably played with so many athletes that were unbelievable athletes, but you put them in a coaching setting and, maybe it's a little uncomfortable. Maybe they don't know how to lead properly. Maybe there is this communication barrier or whatever, right? Like, what we need to preach and what we need to reward kids on is process focused, is, hey, what did you fail at today? And how can we get better with that? Not, you won this award, you were the fastest today. That's not what it's about, right? And some of those tools are God given, right? Like, you might not even have had to work super hard to be fast or to throw hard or to do whatever. But the work ethic is where we can take those characteristics and blend that into what we're going to do in the future. And clearly that's what you've done as well, right? Like, that's the most important piece of all this. And I think that's the disconnect at the youth level. And I think you said it very well, just with the pressures that kids put on themselves to, be on the top team that has the most Instagram followers on social media or whatever, right? It's like, we're just disconnected from what truly matters in this world.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's beautifully said.
Now, right before we get into our last segment, the Fast Five questions, I have one last thing. Your athlete inner game, right, is more of a holistic approach. I'd love you just to give a quick rundown. Obviously, working with athletes, every athlete's different. So I hate giving you a generalized question of like, what does it look like? But from a holistic view, right, what is the goal and what is your vision for you, what you want that to look like as a coach?
Yeah, so our business is built on 5 core pillars, and I think this kind of leads right into the question. So the first pillar is personal development. So the goal for us is to develop these humans, young men and women. Doesn't matter the age. Ideally, we work with a certain age range, but we want to develop the person, right? If you know who you are, truly know who you are, beyond the sport, beyond expectations, beyond the parents, all of that, and we help them identify that. We ask them questions. We ask them questions on, what certain words mean for them. What does stress mean for you? What does passion mean for you? What does purpose? What does clarity? We ask those questions. What are some, and then we help them, define them and, go from there. And then we identify some limiting beliefs and we help them understand what a limiting belief is. And then we help them move through a limiting belief. Um, and then from there, after personal development, after we help them build this identity, this foundation, then we go into vision. Okay, you understand who you are and why you are this way, kind of where this stuff came from, where you are. Okay, now where are you going? Where do you want to go? What is like now that you understand why, you feel a certain way or why you love this game or love life, where are you going to take it? Right. And then we go from there. And I love vision boards. We go deep into vision. It's not just one board. We have a series of slides and
I love
it's an
that.
awesome experience. And so from there, once we have the vision, then it's every day you're looking at your vision board. Every day you're touching it, you're feeling the dream. And I'm really big on this. This is the biggest game changer because I visualized when I played, but it's so much more important to feel than it is to see. Meaning, when you visualize, let's say you're a hitter and you want to play for Florida. I live in Florida, University of Florida. It's so much more important to feel yourself with that jersey on, stepping on campus, feeling the energy, walking as if you're a Division I Florida Gator player. It's so much more important to feel those things. Talk as if you're that player. Walk as if you're that player. Act. Treat people as if you're that player. All of those things are so much more important than just seeing yourself with that jersey on. Because physiologically, your brain doesn't know the difference between you actually being there and you visualizing it. But feel it. Now you're turning on all those neurons. You're firing all the same ones that you would as if you were actually there. But just seeing it, it's not creating that same, it's not turning on those, it's not firing those neurons the same way. So from there, from the vision, it's just every day, right? We're identifying the goals every day. We're seeing these long-term goals, but all of it, we're seeing the vision, we're feeling, we're putting ourselves in it. From there, we utilize breathwork, meditation, and visualization to help them achieve states. So, a lot of kids get nervous. A lot of people get nervous. I used to get super nervous before games
Yeah, of course.
and big moments in games. Even regular moments in games, I get really nervous. And so we teach them to leverage things like breathwork. We teach them there's different styles, some that are parasympathetic, meaning slow your nervous system down. Sometimes you're a little bit too low, you're a little bit tired, you're a little bit sluggish. Well, there's some that are Wim Hof style breathing, other type of breathing, mechanics that you can do in 10, 15, 30 seconds to change your state. Just little stuff that, game changer for a kid who just had a call with a kid and there's one breathing pattern called coherence, which is just basically 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. And scientific research showed that when you get into this breathing pattern, it actually sends waves between your heart and your brain, and it creates this coherence, this synergy. And those are your life forces, your heart and your brain. And so if those are in synergy, then you're centered. And the kid, I asked him, what did he feel? It was our first session. I said, what did you feel when you did that one? He said, I felt connected. I felt in control. I said, can you picture how you could use that in game? And he's like, yeah, like he plays lacrosse, he plays attack. And he's like, yeah, like when I don't have I can keep doing that breathing and stay in control of the moment and be
Yeah.
centered and not be anxious and worried about. And I said, what do you feel when you're calm and centered and control? How's your vision? It's clear and it's open. And it's like those subtle things, when you practice them, become major game changers, right? And then we teach them to visualize. And meditation is, I mean, for anybody, have their parents do it too. Because meditation isn't about woo-woo Buddhist monk sit there for days. It's about, can you become familiar with and okay with yourself
Yeah.
and the thoughts and the feelings that come up. That is the most human thing a human can experience, is thoughts and feelings. But it's important to not hold on to not chase, and to not push away any of them, because they are not you, but they're a part of your process. And so it's important for those kids to get comfortable with that. And when you get comfortable with that, do you think you're going to handle external chatter, better or worse?
Yeah,
Of course you're gonna handle it
of
better.
course. Yeah,
And so those are the main pillars, but that's kind of the process of it. It's like build
yeah,
the foundation. And then as they show some progression, it's like, okay, now they know who they are. Now let's help them get where they're going or see where they're going. And then help them get there with some tools. Now let's continue to build. And it's a beautiful journey. And the people that are bought in, it's so cool because I always picture myself like if I had this in high school, I don't even know. But
right.
it's speculative. So my mission is just, you know, help all these kids around.
Langston, I think this is the perfect time to pivot right towards our last segment, which is our Fast Five segment. So, like I told you before, five semi rapid fire questions on mental performance in sports, and I'll rip them at you, and you kind of just give me your best answer that you got.
Do it.
Awesome. All right, let's do it. All right, question number one. What part of your identity did sports help you discover?
Understanding that it's not about, what you achieve, it's about who you become. So I became, a person that surrenders to God. And that's the most beautiful thing that I believe you can accomplish in life. And it's the most proud thing I have in my life.
Yeah, awesome. All right, number two. Looking back, what moment felt like the end for you, but ended up just being a new beginning?
I would say when I left football, it was like, am I a waste of time now that I'm not a football player anymore? Yeah. And that sparked the whole journey. That was beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. Number three, when everything around you is chaotic, what is one habit that brings you back to center? Yeah,
And breathwork.
I love
Together.
it. I love it. That's good. That's perfect. Number four, what belief about yourself did you have to unlearn in order to grow as an athlete or a person?
I'm unworthy if I don't achieve something.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, I also dealt with that. I feel like so many athletes do. That's a great answer. And then number five, last question. What does success feel like to you now? And how has that changed since you were an athlete?
Yeah. Success to me now is more about the daily process, whereas
Yeah.
before it was all about am I getting the result on the field or in the field that I was in? And now it's about am I showing up and doing the things that I say I'm going to do? And if I do that, then I surrender to the rest and I'm grateful. And, being able to help others is the biggest thing. So if I'm preparing, doing my process to help others, then I'm where I'm meant to be. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that was the perfect way to wrap it up, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here and chop it up with me and talk about your journey and share some low points for yourself and share some high points and share the resilience that you've shown and, now your mission and values today and how you've grown as a person. So, really appreciate you spending time with us and sharing that and, spitting some game on the mental performance side of sports, man. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. This is awesome. Again, always good to chop it up with like-minded people and to be able to learn. So I look forward to hearing more about your journey and kind of where you're at and what's worked with you and what's worked with your athletes and where you're going.
Yeah.
What's the vision for Brandon?
Definitely. No, no, dude, I appreciate that. I know you and I will keep in touch, and I know I'll definitely keep you in the loop. And I'm excited to continue to see your success, man, and keep it up, man. Keep firing up the locker room on football games, man. That really fired me up, juiced me up. I need a couple of those in my
Yeah,
daily routine when I go on social media. So I appreciate that, man. So thank you again for coming on and spending the time here.
no doubt. Thank you again for doing this, man. You're changing a lot of lives by, having these conversations. So we appreciate it.
I appreciate that, man. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you, bro.
Sir.